Hello, everybody. Hello, my dear friends, students. We continue our Python lessons, and today topic is looping. How to repeat the same job many times in your program. It's a very common task. You face it every day. Let's say you're reading a database, you storing records in the RAM, and you repeat again and again the same statements, the same operations for different customers, different records. So there are two types of loops in Python: for loop and while loop. And the same as if, by the way, loop statements are compound statements. So you can nest in a loop statement, another loop statement, or if statement, or you can nest inside if statement, a loop statement. So compound statement can contain other statements. So this is a for loop demo. And for loop depends on a very popular Python function, range. So range is a library function in Python, and it gives us a set of integer numbers. You can call range with one parameter, two parameters, or three parameters. And if you call it just with one number, then the range is from 0 to 4 in this situation, so last number not included. If you call and you start from 0, so that's the default. If you call range with just one argument, then it's starting from 0, and you finish one number before 5. But you can provide, of course, you can provide two arguments for the range. You can provide the number you start, the number where you stop, or you can provide three parameters for the range. It's a number to start, it's a number to stop, and it's a step. So you can go faster through your range if you increase your step. You can go, by the way, downward if your step is negative, like here. And range can be empty, by the way. In line 19, I demonstrated you a range with no numbers. So in a for loop, you have a header. So this is called the header. The header is actually two defined from and to numbers for your range. And after the header, you have many statements, or one statement. It's a body. So the body of the loop is indented, and it is done as many times as many numbers in your range. If your range doesn't have any numbers, then nothing is done. So in line 19, you see an example when for loop won't do anything. It's an empty loop. So let's press F5. Let's take a look how for loop is working on different ranges. And you see range 5, 0 to 4. You see range 1 to 5. You see again 5 not included. You see range 1 to 5 with the step 2. You see range from 1 to 0, and again 0 is not included with the step -1. Finally, range 0 is empty. So that's why I don't have any print statement in my last for loop. So pretty straightforward. Again, don't forget about column character after the header, and don't forget about indents. Forgetting about indents is a very common Python beginner mistake. While loop. While loop is, let's say, less defined than for loop. In for loop, usually you know ahead of time how many times you want to do certain job. In a while loop, it's not sometimes that certain. So it works this way. In the header, you have a Boolean expression, any Boolean expression. And if it's true, you do the body of the loop. After the body is done, you again check the expression. And if it's true, you continue. If it's not true, the loop is finished and you jump where? To the next line after the loop. By the way, the same is for loop. After you did for loop certain number of times, you jump to the next line after the body of the for loop. So if you compare for loop and while loop, you see that in a for loop, the loop counter is automatically set up, automatically incremented, but in a while loop, if you again want to use certain variable as a counter for your loop, you have to initiate it yourself and you have to increase or decrease yourself. Now it's your responsibility. Line 2, initiation of the loop variable, and line 5, decrement or maybe increment. So in this while loop, I'm expecting to see all the numbers from 1 to 10 to be printed. Yes, it is. Sometimes you have to finish your loop ahead of time. So there are two special operators in Python, break and continue, to interrupt the loop and to, let's say, get out of it. It happens all the time. For example, during reading records from the database, there is input-output error. Something happened to the file. The connection is lost. So there is no point to keep trying reading next records. You may end up having corrupted data. So you have to finish your loop right away without completing the loop. And here you see break keyword. So I'm printing all the numbers from 1 to 10, and I'm printing also squares and cubes. But if I reach number 5, line 7, I break. That means the while loop is done. And from line 8, I'm going straight to line 11. So break is a very popular statement in Python in order to finish your loop ahead of time due to certain unexpected, let's say, circumstances. Let's prove it. Let's try F5. And what I see is everything is printed, but the cube for number 5 not printed because the loop was interrupted. Continue. Another statement to interrupt your loop, but it's working not like a break. Break is stronger. Break like finishes the whole loop. Continue statement doesn't finish the loop, but it finishes the current iteration of the loop. So after continue, you won't go to line 10. You won't go to the next line after the body. You will go to the first line in the body. So you jumping back to the beginning of your loop body. And don't forget, in for loop, variable I is automatically incremented. So what I expect here, I expect 3 numbers to be printed, but in a third number, I won't print the cube. So basically, I'm gonna skip line 9 and I'm going back to line 4. So all numbers from 0 to 4 going to be printed, but number 3 cube won't be printed. Only one number, number 3, the cube won't be printed. So let's prove it. Let's press F5. And that's exactly what I said. 0, 3 prints, 1, 3 prints, 2, 3 prints. But number 3 only 2 prints, and number 4 is 3 prints. So this is done, and you see now how to finish your loop ahead of time using break statement or continue statement. You may be wondering, by the way, how about do while loop? Because all the languages, they have not only while loop when you check the condition and do the job, but they also have do while loop when you do the job and then you check the condition. You can do it using a so-called endless loop in Python. So this is, let's say, do while loop done in a Python. So we don't have do while loop as such, but you can make endless loop, because while true means you have to keep doing the body of the loop forever. So sometimes we call this endless loop, and endless loop may be done on purpose, which is fine, but endless loop may be sometimes as a result of your mistake. It may happen when computer all of a sudden like frozen. It's doing the same job over and over again, and you just let's say forgot to increment the counter. So in this situation, I do endless loop on purpose, and I print numbers. I increase my loop variable, and when I reach 5, I break the loop. So basically, this is the same as do while loop in other programming languages. Let's try it. F5. Yes, I see first 4 numbers from 1 to 4, and when I reach 5, my loop is finished. So it is something like do while loop in C, C++, Java, etc. Is it a good idea, by the way, to have only 2 loops? I don't know. We should ask Python creators, I think it's not a good idea because it would be easier. It would be easier to do this with the do while loop, but unfortunately, they decided otherwise. And if in other languages we have 3 types of loops, in Python only 2. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget about my other courses, PHP, Android, and I need your likes, I need your feedback, your comments, your subscriptions. So please be proactive. Show me your feedback. All the best to you guys. Bye bye.